Hey, everybody, it's 5 p.m., which means it's time that you put down all of that work for the day, stop reading those emails and listen to me instead, because that would be far better use of your time. And today I'm joined by Josh Werner. Hi, Josh.
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, good. And where are you coming from, Josh?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York right now.
Oh, I've never been to Brooklyn. So for those of us who are poorly traveled, what's Brooklyn look like outside your window? You probably haven't seen much of it because like us, you're not allowed to go that far at the moment.
I haven't left the apartment in a year or so. No, it's looking a little bleak. You can kind of see that harsh winter light coming through. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. There's a stop sign in someone's backyard. I don't know why it's back there, but not any leaves on the trees. So it's probably a little bit like what it looks like out of your window. And there's a really atrocious brand new condominium in the distance.
Oh, really? I know probably that stop sign, someone half-inched it, as we say in the UK, in order to clear the snow. Yeah.
Oh, that's probably it.
I mean, that probably makes quite a good shovel, doesn't it? A stop sign.
It might be a little heavy, but yeah. There's at this point that most of the snow is melted, but it's turned into this New York City gray ice blocks that you have to kind of maneuver around. It's a tough time of year in New York, but New Yorkers are strong here, so no one complains about it except for me.
Yeah. Now we will later talk about your album, your new album, which is out. But tell me first and foremost, you're a bass player, so. What got you into bass in the first place? Where take us back, young Josh. What was young Josh doing?
Pretty much everything but music. My dad is a drummer.
All right.
My mom's a piano player. My father was more of a trained player. My mom's like a church pianist. So of course I didn't want to play music at all.
Right.
And I just wanted to play soccer and basketball and skip school. So I did a really good job of that most of my childhood. And then, of course, when you try to rebel against your parents, you end up becoming them in some way. So I fell in love with the bass when I was about 21 years old. I had to play piano when I was a kid. My parents, I had to play an hour a day. So that actually, they were right. That came in handy. And then I studied privately with a guy named Richard Davis, who was a very heavy upright bass player who played on Van Morrison, Astral Weeks, and Eric Dolphy, Out to Lunch, and a million heavy records. So
what was that like? Because I mean, Astral Weeks. I've listened to that album over and over again. I mean, what was it like learning from that guy?
It was great. He's the best teacher I've ever had, and he was teaching at the university, but he just kind of took me under his wing for private lessons. He kind of got a kick out of the rebellious side of me. And it was like a Karate Kid kind of thing. I'd mow his lawn and do yard work for lessons and drive him around campus. And
did you actually have to stand on one leg and sort of do the whole? I'm joking.
There was a time when I did break my hand. I had a little bit of scuffle, and I broke my hand, and he made me practice with the broken hand for a day. And then at the end, he asked me, "Well, are you a boxer or are you a bass player?" I said, "I'm a bass player." So that was that was my Mr. Miyagi moment there. So
yeah, work through the pain. Work through the pain, Josh.
Yes.
Wow. That's brilliant. Okay, so if you're ever playing live and the hand starts to cramp or whatever, you just take yourself back mentally to that moment and you go, I can work through the pain.
Yeah, this is a lot better than with the broken hand. I could take this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And, it's just like someone like that believes in you. It gives you a lot of confidence, and it really helped me just focus. And I moved to New York a couple years after studying with him and went to school there for music, but really New York is its own school. So it was really, that was the big school I was going to. And
this sounds like a Miles Davis story, moving to New York,
from the Midwest.
Play with the peers, that's the way to grow up. Yeah.
It was, I was lucky to have a little bit of that Midwest, where you learn on the bandstand from the older guys, which is
Sure.
disappearing a little now. It was more because my dad's from that too, and they were all like, nobody gives you credit for anything until you prove it on the stage. So I was really more from that than school, So when I got to school, I already had a proper Midwest, bandstand experience, plus the chip on my shoulder coming from Midwest. So it was all.
And what sort of stuff were you playing then? What were you playing
in Milwaukee, where I'm from? I really loved reggae and dub. So we had like instrumental dub bands, and we would listen to all the Jamaican guys, and we'd also listen to Adrian Sherwood and the British guys that sort of took it there, and then we, Laswell, and we just, would play like punk rock clubs and just do instrumental dub. And then, I always loved jazz. My father's a jazz musician, and, that was sort of so it was really those two things were the only two things I played the first couple years of playing. That's really all I listened to. I fell into the dub vortex, with the aid of lots of marijuana and fun. And then the jazz was like, like this like puzzle that I just, sort of wanted to prove that I could a little bit.
I can see another sort of nod to jazz in the background as well on that shelf there. So do you play that instrument as well, or is that just?
I don't. This is my buddy's apartment that I'm kind of squatting in because I'm actually living upstate, usually at a recording studio. So he's got his trumpet up there, so it just looks good because otherwise it's just bare walls here,
Yeah, it just looks like you play trumpet too. Yeah.
No, I wish.
Do you jam together?
We used to jam together. He moved to California, so yeah. Oh, you mean my buddy whose trumpet it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's more of a realist. He has a real job and it doesn't involve music, So we jammed together when we were kids, and now he just got the trumpet hanging up here. So we haven't jammed together since the 90s, maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, you also mentioned growing up that you mentioned church in there. Did you used to get taken along to church? Was church music an influence on you at all? Or?
It was, it wasn't like a lot of Americans have a great, they go to gospel church and the music's just out of this world, and you have
amazing. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It wasn't like that. It was, you had to sing and you had to sight read. It was a lot of Bach, and then a little more the Kumbaya folk thing. So we'd sing like a Birds tune in there or something, but it was people singing together and everyone in my family trying a new harmony every time to him. It was sort of required. There was no choice. Just like practicing piano every day, you had to go to church. So I think that was a little part of it. But I really love spiritual music. Some of the Bach stuff I always loved, even when I was little. Where he's really tuned in, But
I was brought up in a church going family and went to church every week. I mean, for me, the thing that it sort of taught you was, as I say, harmony, definitely, and sort of and in a way discordance as well, because actually some of those old pieces, some of those old hymns actually had quite discordant melodies and chords in them as well, and really hard to sing.
It's like sometimes you're like, even when you're a kid, you're like, nobody can sing this. What are we trying this hymn for? There's a Lutheran church, so there's a lot of like everybody gives it a shot, whether they can sing or not.
Yeah,
so
you definitely know. Yeah, you definitely know. You definitely know why you don't want to be sometimes, because you've only got to have one person really tone deaf trying to sing in a church, and it's a very painful experience because it's normally loud and proud, even though it's really bad. But I do think it's
showing they mean it there.
Yeah. But I do think it's quite a good experience for the ear in terms of learning those things. And what about sort of pop? Was that ever on your radar then? I mean,
My dad had a very specific record collection that didn't involve any pop music. He had a lot of Mingus, Miles, Sarah
Coltrane.
Fitzgerald, Coltrane, and then the classical thing. He's really more, the Mahler and the,
really
all
hard stuff.
heavy,
Resurrection Symphony, all that stuff. Yeah.
And the only thing we had was the Beatles, I guess somehow in his record collection, he had the red and blue Beatles compilation records, the Apple
Those
compilation.
Yeah.
And that was it for pop music. So we had to sort of import at a very early age and listen to a lot of radio. So, we were into all the obvious 80s stuff.
But there's a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of learning to do in those two red and blue albums for a start, in terms of kind of crossover.
Oh man. Yeah, I thought they were all one, they read as one big record because you're just like, oh, I didn't know Come Together was a totally different period than I Want to Hold Your Hand When You're Little. You're just like, this shit is good. I just liked it,
Yeah.
I liked it all, And I didn't know I liked John Moore, but I listened to, now I'm like, oh, I guess I did sort of I wouldn't have known the difference of who any of the singers were at that point, I was just responding to oh, I like this one. I like this one. They were good records to grow up on. And then we would, dub cassettes from our friends and sneak them in past my dad. So,
I think that's one of the great things about the Beatles is that when, as you say, I think my parents were the same. We sort of had just the greatest hits sort of things of the Beatles when you grew up.
Yeah.
And now I own everything by the Beatles just because. But you listen to it and you just go, well, these are just great songs to begin with, and you just
I don't understand what people are like. I only like a lot of musicians. I just like Revolver. Revolver. That's I like Revolver. I'm like, yeah, but Help is a great record. How do you rate Revolver against Help? I like all that. I like it all when it's once.
Well, it's because stylistically, some of it, obviously, because the Beatles grew up with their music, is more adult. But you've probably heard it over the years. You can take any of those early Beatles songs, and you could, if you get the right people in a group grooving along to one of those songs, you can, because it's a good song, you could take it in a different direction in terms of style, and it's still a great song.
Exactly. And they were a great band. They're more of a live band when Help happened than they were when Revolver happened. They weren't even, they were sort of just mega stars that couldn't even leave the country. They were so big or whatever. So I like the sort of live, naive, perfect pop.
Yeah. Now take us forward a bit, because in more recent times you've been working mainly with who?
Oh, come! I missed that last part there.
Sorry, yeah. In more recent times, who is it you've been working with more recently?
Oh, I'm still a session musician, so I get called for a lot of reggae and dancehall stuff, and I worked with this producer, this reggae star named Popcorn. He's sort of the big dancehall star right now. So I played on his record, and then some R&B singers like Justine Skye and Kay Michelle, and I pop up on tracks here and there with. I'm working with a woman named Anna Wise now, who's on the Kendrick Lamar. She won a Grammy with Kendrick Lamar. I'm working on her record right now. Yeah, she's incredible.
Have you spoken to Kendrick himself or not?
No, I've never worked with him, but
it may happen.
Who knows? And then I've been working with a lot of my peers on different records, and there's a studio I live up in upstate New York. Since the pandemic started, I decided to go live at a recording studio in the woods. And
in the woods,
brilliant. Yeah, it's sort of way upstate. It's not 45 minutes from Woodstock, and there's a jazz musician named Kenny Werner, so I've been recording with him. Same spelling as my last name, and it's been a little strange this last year as far as work because I can't tour. So I had some fantastic things in my mind planned what last summer and year we're going to be in.
Well, hopefully, before the end of this year's out, we might see the start of that happening. At least we seem to be closer to that being the truth rather than, where we were in a very dark place a year ago. So
I hope so too. I really miss, and a lot of my friends in New York, more than anything, we really miss going to Europe and going to the UK and going to France. I mean, that's like such a big part of our experience is being able to go to these other places and see our friends there and perform for those audiences. And it's like, now it's just kind of like, nope, don't leave your apartment.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have how far do your travel restrictions go? Because around here, I mean, I can't go sort of like, if I go 20 plus miles, I'm, policeman's going to pick me up. So
really, it's not that organized here, as you can imagine. From the previous administration, do whatever you want. But in New York, they're trying to keep a really close track on you. So if you leave New York, they do sort of make sure you have a test before you get on a plane. And I think New York, LA, some of the hot spots that have more organized healthcare systems are trying to stay on top of it. But it's maybe a little looser than it should be, but.
So tell us about this new album. So what's the album called?
Mode for Titan.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, I sort of was thinking there's a Joe Henderson record or a song called Mode for Joe, and I always like that kind of like thinking in modes and dedicating one to someone, and sort of like paying homage to Richard Davis and Bill Laswell in a way with that title, because they're my two, sort of beacons of, Bill's a great friend and Richard was my great mentor. And I look up to both of them and sort of.
It's on that record label as well. It's on his record label, is it not?
It's on Bill's label. Yeah, he produced
it's on Bill's label. Yeah,
it's on his record label, which is MOD Technologies, and it's sort of for both of them.
That's cool. It also sounds like it could be some kind of Marvel film, doesn't it? Or...
Yeah. When I Googled it, there's some video game that like is called. It's like, I don't know. Is there some Titan mode or something? It's like
exactly.
Yeah, it is sort of like that, or it's sort of like a Greek, like I don't know. Yeah, I consider them both Titans. It sort of fits.
Cool. Now, for people that haven't listened to it yet, what do they hear when they put the album on, as it were?
Yeah, I think it opens with a kind of ambient landscape that's subtle compositional elements. I think. And then as the record goes, there are songs that are more compositional and less ethereal. And some of it's sacred, some of it's a little silly, but it sort of is all in this visual landscape of just kind of soft, what it sounds like when it's just the bass, The bass is like so power in anything you put it in, reggae or heavy metal or whatever. The frequency is so powerful, but when you remove the impact of drums and the harshness of keyboards or guitars, or when you just take it into that, it's decidedly ambient. It's like plush, and it's like a lot of those records demonstrate. It's really the key to sort of opening this little spiritual wormhole that I think the bass is the best at, transfixing people and taking them there. So
you mentioned earlier when we were speaking the word meditative, and it's got that kind of in parts. It's got that kind of meditative kind of feel to it. There's parts of it which are quite hypnotic. Which I really like.
I always loved about dub music. It's just this kind of like, I always thought that's the music they should send out into space. Just to like be like, oh, this is the best humans have to offer. It's this like zone and this like heavy spiritual oneness to it. So I think that was a big part that we wanted to capture because we both love that. And then there's a lot of songs that I would write when I first started playing bass. I didn't have an amplifier, and if you rest your chin on the end of the arm of the bass, it's sort of, you can feel the frequency.
You feel it up your jaw.
Yeah, it sort of resonates up to your jaw and shakes your skull a little bit. So but those songs I would write were kind of like always sort of stayed with me. And a lot of the compositional ones are those type of things, just things that sound good with just the bass alone, with a little reverb on it.
Yeah, but I said in other points it does sort of pop off into sort of more little, as you say, compositional moments, a bit more jazzy, you know.
Yeah.
And then and what I like about it is, as someone that was a vocalist, you find yourself, you know, there's moments where I would just listen to this album, and I wouldn't feel like I'd want to interfere at all. And then there are other moments where you just feel yourself sort of going and creating a little tune.
Oh, I love
to
that.
go over the top, you know.
Well, I think to me, I love that because that's such a role of a bass player, is to create a canvas where a singer or a trumpet player or saxophone player feels like, oh damn, I can ride this, you know, like you just set me up, man. Like that's really like the key of what I find being a bass player. Key responsibility is just be like, you're working the ship, you know, okay, I'm ready for you. Like I'll just hold the sail for you. And sometimes like dub and other things, that's what I love. It frees your thoughts when you just listen to a King Tubby record and there's no vocals and there's no lead guitar, and it's just like you're having your own conversation with the music. You're having your own melody.
Yeah, I'd love to see an album like this live with you doing it, obviously playing it through, but then with the option of maybe a singer and some free-form sort of percussion, stroke, trumpet or something like that, where they can just join in bits of it if they want to.
Yeah, they could.
Do you know what I mean?
A live stream where you just kind of mix it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of remix potential on this record, but you know, I'm already on to like the second or third record after this in my head, so I probably should get to it where I have some friends do things with it and put it all together. I was also hoping a lot of hip hop. I got to send it to my hip hop producer friends and like use it freely on a large song, please. So yeah,
there's some really good remixers out there at the moment. There's some really good producers that can take kind of a sort of canvas like that and actually turn it into something really different as well. And I'm seeing that quite a lot. I mean, one of my favorite albums of last year was the Nubia Garcia album, Source, which is a great jazz album, but she's had that remix and people have been working on sort of like songs from that and really just taking them off into a completely more dancey direction.
Sometimes that leads you to the remix can take you back to the original more than you would have ever discovered it. So
so I mean, you know, I can certainly see that happen. But as you say, get on with the next thing. Let someone else do that, and then take all the credit. That's the way to go with that, my friend.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, especially now because people have got the time to do those remixes. Yeah, so you can probably go for someone that, you know, normally wouldn't actually have the time to do it because they'd be flying across the Atlantic somewhere, but that you could do that. So in terms of, you say you're already working on the next thing already. So what does that look like? Well, what will that sound like? More to the point.
I've got it was a live stream concert at an art gallery where I was going to have a visual art show, but everything got canceled. So I just did a concert there and we recorded it and it came out pretty good. And it's got a saxophone player named James Brandon Lewis, who's a just a terrific player in the New York City world scene at this point, and a drummer named Chess Smith, who plays a lot as well, avant-garde jazz, and a clarinet player named Patrick Holmes. So we did a quartet record where it's all improvisational, but it's compositionally improvisational. So somehow we did a whole set, and we just, between songs, we just sort of talked down what we wanted it to be. And for an improv record, it really touches on some nice groove elements. It's not without groove or without
oh, that
melody.
sounds so up my street. I'm going to have to listen to that afterwards.
Okay, I'll send you the link. Yeah, it's and so a label is putting it out called RR Gems in Europe. They're just going to press 3,000 vinyl and see what happens. So I've been working on the record art for that. So that's one thing.
So it was your artwork that was meant to be in this gallery. You're a bit of an artist as well in terms of the visual art. Cool.
I decided playing bass for money wasn't hard enough, so now I'm going to.
You decided to go for another art which doesn't pay. Well done, you.
Next thing is avant-garde dance, and then I'll have the full circle there. Difficult. Race. Yeah, no, it's been like when I was a kid, was what I really liked more than any of the arts. Is I just like to draw and paint, and I always felt like I come back to it. So I painted the cover for Mode for Titan. And the label was kind enough to use it for the record, and it's. I've been finding a lot of common ground between the music and the visual.
But it sounds though, with this skill set that you're building up, though, Josh, with the sort of the understanding of all of these different arts, that one day, although you said when you were at school, you didn't necessarily excel into the academic system, you could potentially end up going back to school to teach this. You could become Professor Josh of this. Do you think you could actually see yourself doing that one day?
I think I could, if it was one of those things where you design your own curriculum. And you sort of like, okay, I want to teach a course like this for kids that are interested in this. I think that would be I think I would excel at that. But as far as, teaching music theory or specific ensembles, like some of the stuff that I really didn't find inspiring, teaching that would be
we've had a few famous musicians in this country who have set up their own sort of schools, if you like, within the schooling system, because actually they had a bad time of it going through school.
A lot of creative things find that tough,
but they've actually, what they've done is and they've set up programs with kids that are being failed by the system, to go in and work with those kids.
That would interest me, because I found like the funniest class clowns and craziest kids are just the most brilliant,
Yeah, there we go.
So we lose a lot of them in the cracks here in the States, that's for sure.
So if anyone's listening and they run a scheme where they're working with kids that are getting expelled from school or whatever, Josh might want to hear from you, and he may take up a creative directorship role in that to kind of help with those kids.
That'll be fun.
Do you see what I've done there? That's brilliant.
Yeah, you just got me a gig.
I just got you a gig, man. No, that's brilliant. The album cover for this particular record, is that one of yours?
Yeah, that was
That's fantastic. What medium did you use for that?
That's canvas and acrylic and charcoal.
Wow.
I think maybe pencil deep.
So it's actually quite a big canvas, or
pretty big.
Oh yeah, pretty big. Yeah. So you had to kind of reduce it down for CD size or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one to paint.
Yeah. Absolutely. How important is it for you getting this stuff onto physical format and getting it into things like vinyl, for example? I mean,
It's so important for me. Obviously, we're talking about growing up with the Beatles vinyl and growing up. And I even love cassettes. Like I did a singer-songwriter record a couple years ago that only came out of a cassette.
How cool's that?
I just feel like you don't throw it away when you have it, you know, and it can just live on. If someone does throw it away, it can everything just seems so temporary and nihilistic with the digital just taking over everything.
Yeah.
I just feel like the sound is sacrificed for convenience right away, right off the bat. That's problematic, you know. And
the other thing is when you produce an album like this, where it's, you know, there's no start or stop, really, is there? I mean, it's not like you know, this is not, you know, this is not the Spice Girls' greatest hits or something. This is a beautiful thing that starts there, finishes there, and I'll tell you what, the 2 times that I listened to it today, you just go, oh, is that it? It's gone. But you know, you suddenly realise that you've been listening to it for 40 odd minutes or whatever, and I
tried to make it like a circle. I wanted it to make, that is a strange record, even for Bill Laswell. He said he's never recorded one that you just kept it in the order you recorded it. That's exactly in the order we recorded it, except for I took the first song and I put that last because I wanted it to look even more like a circle when it comes around. So
see, I love that. I really love that on a record, because you just, you know, as I say,
I find that to be a lost art. But all my favorite classic records, like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, John Coltrane, Crescent, it's just like, it just has that beginning. It's just sequenced so well that you're just like, yeah, I get it, you know. I get get this as a whole story, not as like this little story, which is cool too. But or those Marley records where you're just like, man, who sequenced this? This is like perfection. It's like one big song.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's what everyone in sort of prog music, you know, call sort of like the concept album. But actually, that kind of concept type idea is not just prevalent within prog. It is actually prevalent in a lot of other albums, you know. And as you say, what's going on, you know, I mean, I like a lot of the other Marvin Gaye albums, but that particular album, it just has that. It feels like a story, you know. You feel like you're in it.
It's got to be one of the greatest records, you know, stories ever told.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Bonus tracks ones, I listen to more like all the bonus track ones, but then when you get back to the original on vinyl, you're just like, damn, like he did it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And it should leave you wanting more of it as well. You should kind of get to the end and go, damn, is that it? That's it.
Yeah.
So you've achieved that. You've achieved that, my friend. Absolutely. Because
I appreciate that. I appreciate
absolutely.
that. I'm so happy with it. Honestly, it's something I want to do for so long, and I'm really grateful that Laswell. We both had the time to do it at the same time because he knew, you know, we've worked together a lot. I trust him. You know, it would have been a tough thing to do by myself. You know, it wouldn't have had that sonic, like the depth it has. To have that person you got overseeing it.
If people are listening and, you know, they want to listen to an experience which is not just a set of songs, you know, that where you can go, oh, I've had 2 minutes of that now, and I'm going to skip. So let's see what, you know, that sounds like further on. You know, where's the hit? You know,
that's like, what Spotify song should I put as the, you know, it's like, it's just one big song, and I don't know what to sing.
This is a true album, and it has to be absorbed as an album. You can because of the different ways that you can access these things these days, you can just dip in and listen to 5 seconds of it. It's not going to make sense to you. And you will not be doing Josh or anybody else any service by doing that. So just
you might feel weird. Just dip in for it. Might make you feel a little fun for 20 seconds.
Well, exactly. So look, let's just be sensible here, guys. Everybody out there needs to make time to listen to this album, and give yourself the time during the day to do it. All right. You can be doing something else at the same time, right?
The good one for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but make sure that you actually, don't make sure the telephone's off. Make sure that the kids are locked in another room, or just in another room, maybe, and just give yourself the time to actually listen to this. And if you really can do it, just lay on the bed and listen to it with a really good set of headphones, because that's personally I found that was probably the best.
It's really or a really good car system, or really nice hi-fi with sub in it,
Yeah, well, that's another reason why we need society to get moving again, isn't it? So we can go on these car journeys just to listen to music properly.
Tough. You don't even have that. You can't go that far right now.
No, exactly. You can only go for like 20 minutes and then you have to stop, etc. But what we need is again, this will be a great album for sort of like get on that road, go, listen, Oh,
it's a bad situation, but for everyone, the pandemic. But it is a good record for these times, and it got a little delayed with the label and everything, but it all makes sense that it came out and is at least my circle of people that they're finding that it really is helping them, and in a meditative way, and just a really calming way, and which means a lot to me. So thank you for the kind words. And
no, it's fine. Well, thank you for talking to me about you and your music. That's been great. I'm going to have to go and cook the kids' tea now, which is, rock and roll, lifestyle, etc.
Yeah. I'm living it too.
Too, my friend. Well done. Now, listen. Before you go, just tell people where they can get hold of this music, and preferably actually buy it. All right, because that's the important thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, the record Josh Werner Mode for Titan is available on some of the bigger places. You can buy it digitally on iTunes. You can buy it digitally on Amazon. You can buy CDs on Amazon, but you can also go to the label website, which is MOD Technologies, and just pulling that up now. It's actually MOD Reloaded, which is the website. Cool. Is if you Google MOD Technologies, a band, or Reloaded, a Bandcamp comes up, and you can buy from there too. But yeah, it's available from a distributor in Europe. So if you just Google Josh Werner Mode for Titan, the CD should be available, and the digital should be available readily.
No, absolutely. And actually, if people Google your name and Bandcamp as well.
I lost sound there. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. If they Google your name and Bandcamp as well, they will find your Bandcamp, and actually that has got links to other people you're associated with as well. Hi, I can hear you. Don't worry. Thank you, Josh. Thanks for coming in today. I will be in touch again. So thank you very much for talking to me. Bye for now.
I lost sound there. Sorry, Graham.
That's all right. Can you hear me?